I'm Roger Baker, Executive Director of the Stratfor Center for Applied Geopolitics at RANE, a global center of excellence for geopolitical intelligence and analysis. Learn how you can put geopolitics to work for your organization at ranenetwork.com.
Welcome to RANE's Essential Geopolitics podcast. My name is Emma Kami, and I'll be your host today. Brazil's Congress recently opened an inquiry into the January 8 riot, which saw protesters enter all three Capitol buildings in an effort to deny the legitimacy of then recently inaugurated President Luiz Inacio Lula da Silva. The inquiry was a controversial topic in Brazil, and here to discuss it with us is RANE's Latin America analyst, Carmen Colosi. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you so much for having me, Emma.
So why is the Congressional Inquiry so controversial?
That's a fantastic place to start. So first, we've seen really that the Supreme Court and other police forces in Brazil have really led the investigations into what has happened into January 8th thus far. So this has been, many people discuss the fact that the Supreme Court may have some partisan questions around what happened. The same is true with the police forces, but many were very concerned about having a congressional inquiry into the events of January 8th because they were worried about, potential partisanship leaking into that inquiry, and also about having a congressional inquiry potentially take away or delegitimize some of the work that's being done in the Supreme Court and by police forces. So that's the first reason why it's pretty controversial. The second is that the inquiry is going to have both right and left-leaning politicians sit on the inquiry panel. And this could, provide an opportunity for some of the right-wing political parties to really push their own narrative of the driving forces and factors behind the January 8th riot. I'm thinking specifically about a conspiracy theory that the Lula administration colluded with rioters to facilitate the riots against, the Brasilia, the capital, in an effort to gain political capital. This conspiracy theory doesn't have a lot of evidence to back it up, but it was one recent major event, which is that we saw one of the top security advisors to Lula actually resign after some footage was leaked of him walking around the presidential palace while it was occupied by rioters on January 8th. And so that footage has really kind of become a driving factor of many of these conspiracy theories, and it would really allow, the congressional inquiry to take a potentially politicized view on what happened on January 8th.
What impact could these conspiracies have on Lula's legitimacy as president?
That's a great question. So we already know that, Lula's legitimacy as president has really suffered due to the way he was elected and events surrounding the election. There was a very tight election. There was I would say, a significant portion of the population that really truly believed that the election was rigged against his contender and former president, Jair Bolsonaro. And this congressional inquiry is very likely to continue this question about Lula's legitimacy, potentially around the fact that there is this conspiracy theory that he did collude with the rioters, and based off of some of Lula's previous terms as president, in which there were some corruption allegations against him. These stories are likely to continue to permeate far-right media and far-right social media in Brazil, and are likely to continue the narrative that Lula is not a legitimate president among, I would say, a significant portion of Brazilians. Not a majority, but a significant portion.
And what kind of impact will the congressional inquiry have on broader policy making in Brazil?
Sure. So many people were concerned that the congressional inquiry would be likely to distract lawmakers from other issues. There are a few key policies that the Lula administration is currently trying to push. The first is that they're trying to push efforts towards having a new fiscal framework. And the second is that the Lula administration is really looking at instituting policies to raise the minimum wage on a yearly basis, based on the rate of inflation. So these two key policies are going to be debated over the next coming months, and many are very concerned that by having a congressional inquiry run parallel to these policy debates could potentially color the way that some of the lawmakers think about these very, I would say Lula championed and leftist championed policies, and could potentially influence them either not to pay as much attention to the debates on policy, or to vote against the policies, not because they disagree with them inherently, but because of the current political climate, and that they wouldn't want to be seen as supporting Lula policies when there is so much, media and coverage of the congressional inquiry as a mechanism to, in many ways discount what Lula is doing as president of Brazil.
Well, thank you, Carmen. Definitely something to keep watching. You can learn how geopolitical events like this could affect your business with RANE Worldview. Our flagship risk intelligence products provide clients with access to the insights and analyses they need to make more informed decisions and drive better risk management outcomes. Sign up at ranenetwork.com. That's RANE network.com. I'm Emma Kami. Thanks for listening.